Madam President, it's been a little over a month since President Trump was inaugurated as the 47th president. One of his key promises on the campaign trail and really throughout his service in the White House has been to confront the threat of the Chinese Communist Party and to hold China accountable for failing to play by the rules. The American people voted resoundingly for that agenda this past November, delivering both the electoral vote and the popular vote for President Trump, as well as Republican majorities in both the House and the Senate. Now the task at hand is to actually begin to implement those promises to hold China to account. Xi Jinping made it clear that his plans to, quote, reincorporate Taiwan in just 2027, just 2 years away. We don't know exactly what that entails, but the threat is ominous. Time's running short to make any potential conflict with China undesirable from their standpoint. In other words, to reestablish deterrence. But the good news is we have a number of tools available to us and a track record of success on confronting the threat of the CCP during the Trump administration. Back in 2018, I was proud to work with President Trump on modernizing the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, otherwise known as CFIUS. This interagency committee reviews foreign direct investment into the United States for potential national security concerns. The bill we ultimately passed and that was signed into law by President Trump was called FIRMA, the Foreign Investment Risk Review Modernization Act. And in that law, we updated CFIUS to expand its scope and process to ensure that we are more comprehensively reviewing any investments that might allow for influence by foreign entities for nefarious purposes in the United States. This bipartisan legislation was signed into law by President Trump as part of the 2019 National Defense Authorization Act. FIRMA was a critical step toward de-risking from China. While this was a big win for Republicans and for President Trump, the truth is we still have more work to do. The top of our to-do list now is to address outbound investment flowing into China by American investors. At this very moment, American investors, some of these are businesses, some of these are individuals, the investments they are making are fueling China's military buildup and modernization by funneling capital into potentially dual-use technology and military capabilities that could eventually be used against the United States and our allies. According to the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission's 2024 report to Congress, U.S. investments in China's semiconductors, quantum computing, and AI alone totaled about $2 billion in 2023. In 2020, more than 90% of these investments were concentrated in the semiconductor industry. And from 2015 to 2021, U.S. investors made up 37% of China's global funding for artificial intelligence. Madam President, Congress is acutely aware of the threat posed by China's rapid capture of the autonomous vehicle market, the advanced cellular technologies, and semiconductor manufacturing. We've acted on these issues before, and it's time to do so again. I was proud to lead the CHIPS for America Act to help the United States reestablish manufacturing for advanced semiconductors here in America, where the percentage of advanced semiconductors that fuel everything from our cell phones to the avionics in an F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, only 12% of those were made here in the United States. The rest of them were made in Asia, principally in Taiwan and South Korea. But we're in the process of turning that around. But there's another side to this coin. How can we expect to outcompete or even catch up to Chinese companies if, unbeknownst to us, American dollars are continuing to fuel their rise economically and militarily. We're simply not being serious about confronting our greatest strategic adversary if we continue to be blind to the investment of billions of dollars in the very technologies that could be potentially used to kill American soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. Now we have an opportunity on a bipartisan basis to finish the job we began with CFIUS reform just a few short years ago. We can do this by passing legislation to address outbound investment into China. To start with, we need greater transparency. We need some sort of accountability so we know exactly what the facts are. It's no secret to any of my colleagues that I've been working on this issue for some time now. During the previous Congress, my amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act with provisions to increase transparency around outbound investment passed by a vote of 91-6, demonstrating the high level of consensus in this chamber on this issue. But unfortunately, this amendment was dropped from the National Defense Authorization Act when it went to conference, and it didn't make it into the final version that was sent to the President's desk and ultimately signed into law. Then last year we made progress along a bipartisan path and in a bicameral manner with Speaker Johnson and Congressman Michael McCaul, who was then the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, working on the House's legislative provisions around outbound investment. But unfortunately, that didn't make it into across the finish line before the end of the year. But there are reasons for optimism that this year will be the time we get these provisions over the finish line. And we've worked hard to work with the House's version and to work with the Senate version that passed overwhelmingly previously to make sure we marry those up and we establish a bill that enjoys bipartisan, bicameral support. I've been working with everyone from the Speaker of the House to the Chairman of the Select Committee on the CCP, John Molinar, to Congressman McCaul, as well as Tim Scott, Chairman of the Banking Committee here in the Senate. And we've all made input into a piece of legislation that will finally accomplish what we've been working on for these last few years. We know time is of the essence, and we're working hand in glove with the Trump administration to ensure this legislation actually accomplishes the goals that we set out for it. I can't emphasize what a great opportunity this is and what a great win it will be for all parties involved. Addressing U.S. outbound investment in China will be a great opportunity for all of my colleagues here in the House and Senate to deliver a big win for our country and for our national security. It will be a home run for all Americans who can feel safe that American companies and investors are not helping China not only rebuild its economy, but also its military as well. And of course, China continues to be our greatest strategic adversary on the planet. The only party that stands to lose from this legislation will be the Chinese Communist Party, and it's high time that they be held accountable. Madam President, I yield the floor.